What's happening, AI family? So let me ask you a question. Have you ever spent hours of your life scraping data manually from a website that you want to use in your Excel sheet? Or have you pulled your hair out trying to build your own scraper using Playwright or Puppeteer, only to have the website block you when you eventually get it running? I have, and so that's why today I'm going to talk to you all about Apify. Alrighty, so this is Apify. This is the website. So if you go to apify.com, you will be presented with this page. And let's have a quick walk around on this page to show what we're looking at. So, excuse me, this is actually the landing page. And you can see on here, they describe themselves as the full stack platform for web scraping. And in my opinion, it is really that. It takes away all of the headaches from scraping sites. Massively reduces the amount of effort you need to put in to actually scrape information from websites. So if you scroll down here, you can see they have 4,000 what Apify described as actors. And as an actor, you can think of it just like a particular piece of software. If you use Docker, it's a particular container that has software running inside it. It does a particular job. Each scraper is its own container. Effectively, they just call it actors. And you can see there's 4,000 to choose from here. So you're not going to run out of actors to try, and you're probably not going to not find this scraper that will suit your needs. So you can see they have social media, they have AI, they have lead gen, SEO, developer tools, take your pick. There's tons. Okay, cool. So that's the list of actors. What we're going to do now is have a look at how we actually use those actors. And we're going to look at that in two ways. The first one we're going to look at is how to use it through the Apify console itself, which is very, very simple. And the second use case is where we're going to look at, okay, how do we actually plug this into N8N and actually make use of these scrapers, quote unquote, programmatically. Cool, so the first thing we're going to do is get ourselves set up with an account. Now I already have an account set up, but the process is very simple. You go here, you can sign up with your Google account, that's what I did. Or you can sign up with you can sign up with your Google account, or you can sign up with an email and password here. I have chosen to log in with Google because I just find it easier. So I'm going to click into here. Okay, so you've created your account and you've logged in, and then what you're presented with is this page. So when you come in here for the first time, you're not going to see these actors that I have in here. These are just actors that I have used previously and continue to use, and that's why they're in here. The top two are the ones that we're going to be interested in today. So that is the YouTube scraper. What that scraper does is goes to a particular YouTube channel, pulls all the video URLs, view count, titles, description, all that kind of stuff. And then once we have that, what we're going to look at, which is part two, is if I have that list of video URLs, how can I get the transcript from them? Well, that's exactly what this does. So we're going to be looking at those two. This one, we're going to look at through the actual Apify UI itself. And the second one, we're going to run through an N8N workflow to show you how to make the best use of that. Okay, so let's look at how to actually run a scraper for the first time. So this is the one that we're going to be interested in. For you, if you were looking for a particular scraper for a particular thing, you would go to the Apify store, search for I would advise you to search for the platform that you're interested in. So I would say Instagram. You can see there's Instagram scrapers. If I was looking for TikTok, there are TikTok scrapers. You can have a look through here and figure out which one is most applicable for your needs. For me, because I've already used it, I don't need to go and search it again. It's already there. So how do you actually run this thing? You click into here. And then there are a couple of options to get this to run. Okay, so you can do the manual input here. I mean, it's both manual, but you can do the, let's call it text box input here, where you're putting in your criteria. This is overkill for what you're going to need to scrape channels, honestly. So what I'd actually advise you to do is, instead of manual, click on JSON. And within JSON, you're going to look for this array down here, which is the start URLs. And in particular, you're going to put in here. So for me, what I'm going to do is scrape Zubair. I'm going to scrape Zubair's YouTube channel to get all his video links. So what I have in here, as you can see, is the AI GPT workshop, which is Zubair's AI workshop channel. You can look at run options if you wish. I would say leave those all alone. Don't do anything with those. Once you have your URL in your double quotes in here, you are good to go. Now at this point, literally just hit start and it will start to do its thing. So what can you see here? This is a view of the actor when it's actually running. Now this does take a few minutes to run. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let this finish its work, and then we're going to come back to it once the actor is finished. Alrighty, so as you can see in here, this is my list. How do I get to this view? I click on runs on the left hand side. So this is a list of every time you've run an actor. You get to come in here and look at runs, click into one of these and it will show the actual output of that actor, or excuse me, for that particular run. So we were looking at YouTube Scraper, so what I'm going to do is click on this one. And what you can see in here is it's gone to Zubair's channel, it's gone through all of his videos and pulled me back all the information about all of them. So you can see there is the title, the video ID, the URL, the view count, date, likes, yada, yada, yada. There's an absolute metric ton of stuff in here that you can use. And this is great, but what do you do with it now that you have that list? And what you're actually going to do is export this, which is this green button down here. And what you, in my experience, the best way to do this is either CSV or Excel. My choice is Excel. Now you can, if you wish, just leave it and export all of the fields. I would advise you not to do that because you get 20 or 30 different fields and a lot of them are just not going to be any use to you. So what I would advise you to do is to go into your selectable fields, and we're just going to pick 4 fields to do this because that's all we need for us to complete the next step in the process here. So the first one we're going to look at is title, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's the title of the video. The next one we're going to look at, next one that we're going to look at is channel name. The third one we're going to look at is URL, which is the individual URLs of the videos. So you want this one down here. There are a few in here, but this is the one that's applicable to the actual URL of the video. And then the last thing, which is useful to have, is the date on which the video is posted. And again, we'll come back to why that's important later. Okay, so we have our 4 fields. You click download. It's very quick, and you can see that was pretty much instant, and it's given me my data set. So I'm just going to let this open in Excel here, and I will pull this in so you can see. So you can see in here, it's given us back 4 columns: title, channel name, URL, and date, and that is a bunch of useful information for us in there. Now, if you're, you can go in, look at all the fields that are available, download them all if you want, but I found this to be super useful. Cool. So that's it. That's as simple as it gets. That's you running your first actor. That's all you need to do. That is through the UI. So the next thing we're going to look at is, now that we have this list, what can we do with it and how could we go and look at scraping transcripts? Okie dokie, so step 2. So what we've done so far, just to summarize, is we've gone and set ourselves up with an Apify account. Within Apify, we've looked for the YouTube's channel scraper actor. We've given it the URL of AI Workshop's YouTube channel, and we've gotten it to scrape all of the video URLs and save them in an Excel sheet that we now have to use. So what do we do with them now that we have them all? Very good question. So this, for those in our school community, you will have seen me post a picture of this a little while ago, and I asked people what this monstrosity was. And we got some people who got pretty close, but actually what this is, just a brief explainer, is this is a concept called context augmented generation. So I know you're all pretty familiar with retrieval augmented generation, where you have a set of vectors in a database, you pass in a search query and look for associated vectors that relate to your search query, which is fine, but the downside of it is you can miss context that's actually really important to the thing that you're looking for. For example, if you have a 100-page document or a 1,000-page document and you send a search query into your vector database, what it's going to give you back is your top 5 or top 10 results from that, which 7 out of 10 times is probably fine. But actually, if you think your search term applies to a particular vector and this particular vector and this particular vector, but actually in the one below that, what you have is information that's pertinent to the thing that you're looking for, but because it is not associated with your search term, you just don't get it. So you lose some of that context. So this is an attempt to build within N8N, no code, that context augmented generation. This is the storage workflow, and I'll talk you through the retrieval workflow in a second. The reason I'm talking about this at all is literally just because of this one node over here. So this is how I am connecting to the Apify API and actually scraping transcripts for individual videos. So what happens is I have a Google Sheet first of all. So you'll remember from a second ago, we have our Excel sheet. All I've done is copy paste from the Excel sheet into this sheet in here. I haven't changed anything else. We have our Google Sheets trigger here, which looks for when you add and update rows. And in our case, if we were to dump that, I'm not going to run it because I have all of this information stored already and I don't want to store it in there again. But what you have is your Google Sheet, which, like I say, monitors for new rows. It then passes in however many new rows you've added, one by one then into this loop, and then one by one into the scraper. So what the scraper does is literally goes to the YouTube channel, pulls back the raw transcript from the video. From there, what we're going to do in here is we have this remove speaker name. So what I find is when you're scraping YouTube transcripts, if there's more than one person in there, what it does is it actually puts the name of the people who are speaking in there, which is not useful for this situation. Don't really need it. So I just have a code node here to remove the speaker names. I'm then storing that cleaned up transcript, but still full transcript, in my Google Drive. And I am updating another Google Sheet, which I have here, which is that one, with an actual ID in the video title, etc., etc. Now this is the really important bit, and we'll get to it in a second. This YTS ID over here, this is the way this works is store my transcript, store the information in the Excel sheet. That's stage one, right? Then what I want to do is create a summary of the transcript that I'm going to store in a SQL database rather than a vector database. This extract summary details is just a bit of cleanup on the text that's output from the agent. And then here in this merge node, what we get is the actual file name that I've stored, along with the summary itself. Then I'm actually storing that summary. I'm storing the summary ID, and I'm getting the row ID of what I stored. So summary ID, transcript ID, video title, and this YTS ID over here, like I was saying. So now I have those. So what I have at this stage is my summary, I have my IDs, and I have the full transcript that I'm going to pass into the next stage of the system. So this again comes down here to a switch. What this switch does is decide, are we trying to store a transcript, or are we trying to store a summary? It runs both because I'm trying to store both. It takes, because the way N8N works, it takes the top root first, which is the transcript. So what this does, based on the ID and the file information that I retrieve from this part here, it goes into my Google Drive and it downloads that transcript. It then extracts that from the file. So it extracts the file from what is downloaded from Google. We do some tidy up here, and then we pass it into the Superbase vector store. Specifically not an agent in this case, because an agent is not required. All I need to do is store the vectors, so that's exactly what it's doing. It has my embedding model. It has our recursive character text splitter down here and our data loader. We have multiple videos on these of how to do this stuff, but essentially just know that it's taking the full transcript that we have, downloading it, and then splitting it up into vectors and storing it in the database. Now, that's stage one. Stage two is we want to store the summary as well. So again, we come into our Google Drive node, we download the summary that we stored, extract the file, bit of cleanup, and then this node here is a SQL Superbase node, not a vector database node. That's why it's different to this one, I guess. So what that does in there is it just takes that summary and stores it directly in there as a text blob. Okay, so just to give you all a quick view, very quick view of what this looks like when it's actually stored. This is my vector database of all of the transcripts that I stored. And then I have this other, you will be used to this format if you've used Supabase for vector bases before. And then the other table that we're interested in is the videos table. So in here, you can see we have our summary ID, transcript ID, video URL, title, and the most important piece that we have over here is our summary information. So like I said, I've broken this down into 3 bits. One is a high-level summary, one is a detailed summary, and the last bit is the key talking points. And I asked the agent to generate all this earlier on in the flow. Okay, that's the whirlwind tour. That's one full loop around that. Let's look at the magic of what actually makes this work. Let's look at the HTTP request nodes. Okay, so we double click on our scrape transcript nodes. This is where we're actually connecting to Apify. We'll have a look at how this is set up. So first of all, at the top here, you can see the method is post. I have my URL here with my API key. I have authentication set as none. We don't need that because we're sending the API key in the URL. We're going to send a body, which is JSON. And then the reason we're going to send it as JSON is because actually what we're going to pass into here is the URL of the video that we want it to scrape. So the URL itself, where do you get this URL from to actually plug it into your own N8N? So if you come back to your actors dashboard in Apify and you go into the transcript scraper, which is the one we're using in the Apify flow. So I click in here. And then over on the right hand side, there is an API dropdown, excuse me. I want to click on API endpoints when I'm in there. And then what you want to look for is this one. Run actor synchronously and get dataset items. So essentially what that is saying is, I want you to run the actor. And once the actor is done, I want you to post me back the output of the actor, essentially. So this is where you would copy paste this up to this point, and then you get your API key and tack it onto the end, and that becomes your full URL that you're going to send in N8N. And it is really that simple. Now I realize that this is quite a complex workflow, and I don't want you to get too hung up on do you understand how this workflow works, because that's kind of not the point of this video, which is what I was trying to say. The point is, you can see hopefully from the things I've demonstrated that it's easy to go into the Apify API, Apify UI, and actually scrape stuff directly in there, or it's equally as easy, maybe easier, to plug in an API endpoint into N8N and scrape stuff that way. So you have multiple options. And that's kind of it. That's what I wanted to show you guys today. I guess to close it out, what I'm going to do actually is just to show you what the actual retrieval mechanism looks like for this. Now, again, if you've used RAG, you will have a simpler version of this that you've used before to actually go and query it. The reason I have this here is because I want to do 2 things for my retrieval. I want to retrieve the summary about the information I'm looking for, and I want to retrieve the vectors. Now what this does essentially is, this is chat, and I'll show you this in a second. We ask our question in here, it gets tidied up, and it gets first of all sent into the vector database, which queries against the actual input that you put into the chat. From there, it will then go and look at our SQL database, and it will pull the summaries from the SQL database, and then they get passed down to this merge node. This is just passing in an ID. That's what this lower one is, for our simple memory over here. So we have our chat ID, we have our vectors, and we have our summary, and that gets passed all the way along into here into the agent, which then is able to give us a fairly concise answer. A fairly verbose answer on whatever our question was. So let's go ahead and test that out. So if I click on open chat down here, now I know I have a ton of videos that I've scraped into here, and I'm trying to think what would be an appropriate question. Okay, so let's say, give me the top 5 things to know about starting an AI agency. hit go, and off it will go, retrieves the vectors, retrieves the summary into the agent, which is now going to summarize, and it will hopefully give us back the answer that we're looking for. Okay, so if we go and have a look at what our answer was in here, you can see that actually it's a fairly substantial answer that it's got in here, and you can see that actually it's pulled a bunch of information about a bunch of different things in here, which is super useful for us. And the reason it's able to give us that in-depth information again is because what I'm actually doing is getting my vectors, looking for the context associated with those vectors, and using them both combined to give me my output here. Now, there is a little bit of magic that I do along the way here. So for example, my AI agent, if you go and look at how I set the agent up, all it gets is the chat input, and it gets the system message is something that I pass into it. This is not static, and I know a lot of us would be used to putting static system messages in here. The reason I put this in here is I can build in a dynamic way what this prompt is based on the number of outputs I get out from the vector database. So depending on your question, you might get 3 vectors and a summary come out, or you might get 27 vectors plus 6 summaries that come out, and I need to be able to build all that dynamically to give to the agent. Anyway, that's getting far too technical for this, but that's essentially what it does. So you can see really interesting in-depth answer here. Okay, so that is it. That's what I wanted to show you guys about Apify. I wanted to use it as an excuse to show off the cool workflow that I built, because I'm super happy with it. I find it super useful for myself personally to be able to go and essentially talk to 600 videos and ask them questions. Like I said earlier on in the video, we do have a discount code for you all. So yes, you can go into Apify and set up a free account, and they'll give you $5 worth of free tokens every month. Should that not be enough for you and you want to sign up, I think it's $40 without the discount code. So you're getting a good chunk of money off if you wanted to go and sign up in there with the discount code that we have. Thank you very much for your time. If you're watching this and you're not in our school community, I will link that down below. We have a free and a paid version. If you want to know what the discount code was, you'll have to come and join the community to get that one. Thanks, folks.